Welcome back to this segment of Spirit at Work with our guest, Chris Norman, Executive Director of the Crown Point Ecology Center. I know that Chris was answering a question that Larry raised, and Larry, you want to check further about that one?
We were talking about, let's say, the politics of going green or the environmental discussion and how often it becomes dualistic and even to the point of misinformation. Where are you in the midst of that insofar as the fact of global warming, for example? And if you'd please continue on with the discussion of the political way it's being discussed.
Sure. And as I say, it's hard because for us as a nonprofit, but also as carrying on the Dominican charism, I mean, for us, we're called to preach. And what they mean by that is to share information, talk, speak the truth as you see it. Global climate change is something that's happening. Now, what are the causes of it? People start kicking it around, and they try and do this, I think, in part to justify inaction. To me, there's no need to debate it. I mean, they say, the change in the climate, the melting glaciers, et cetera, they don't care who's in office. And for us, I've got two little boys, and I think there's a duty, not just for them, but for their children, God willing, that we need to make practical steps. But as a nonprofit, again, Crown Point, we are welcome and open to all. So we accept and encourage all to come. People of any faith background, not even sure where you are, if you care about Earth, you're welcome to come to Crown Point. So when we start talking about practical things that can be done, we're looking to do it as tactfully as we can, not coming from a particular political vantage point of party or anything, but saying together. We all are in this together, and there are very practical things that can be done. Recycling, composting, this kinds of stuff. Walking, riding your bike. Simple things that can be done to reduce the amount of energy that we're consuming, for example. And it just so happens to encourage community. You start sharing resources, meet your neighbors. And that's, like I say, this can be a glass half full kind of scenario. And the amount of jobs that can be created out of this is wonderful. If we stop holding on to the past, the old paradigm, and say, hey, look, actually, this is a great opportunity for us to, like I say, multimodal. You can take the bus, ride the bike, live a little more closely together, grow your own food, that kind of stuff. And it's not that we're going to all become Luddites and go back to Little House on the Prairie, but there is, I think, an opportunity for policymakers to see how to better use the tax dollars, reinvest in the community, and do things that are going to benefit the environment as well as our people.
I think you're already kind of saying it, but to be a little more explicit, how would you connect spirituality? You mentioned that's one of the core values with environmental concerns.
Sure. For me, the call to talk about my spirituality or my faith is something that is welcome, and at the same time, I think as Americans, we start to get a little prickly, or it's like, don't don't shoot on me, kind of a thing. But the spirituality and the calling for care of creation is something that the Dominicans seized on early on. For us, as I say, we're welcome to all faiths to come to Crown Point and experience their reawakening, their connecting with Earth on their own time. They can also join in our programs, etc. But there's no admission fee. There's no tickets that need to be punched to come out and experience it. But there is an inner peace, we think, by coming out and taking a walk. Coming out, if you're in the CSA, we have our community-supported agriculture. It's the oldest program in Northeast Ohio. Folks pay for a share of the harvest at the beginning of the season. When they come, and there's a little bit of volunteering that happens as part of that, and they come and they harvest the vegetables, and they work together to clean the vegetables and pack them up for not only their own family, but the other families they're going to pick up. I think it's a spiritual exercise because it's helping to care for yourself as well as others. That's the kind of practical stuff that we help bring alive. And it's, like I say, it's something that people come to in different ways. And we're open for the group or the individual to come.
I guess this is another "what's in it for me" question. Do you see a practical connection between my being more environmentally aware and my own spiritual development?
You guys are great. I do. I do. The steps that we take as an individual, either in environmental action or the prayers that we make in our own time to get to God, I think reflect then and are truly indicative of how we treat ourselves, but are inspirational for how we're going to treat others. I think that there's an opening and an awakening that happens, and by committing ourselves to witnessing, the face of God is written on the land, so to speak. Buddha says the greatest fertilizer are the footsteps of the farmer. They say the eye of the master fattens the ox, and what I mean is it's paying attention. It's paying attention. If you are present, be here now. I think that there is a connection that happens for us spirituality, and opens us up to then being aware of how our actions implicate the rest of the community. Sometimes we think that this is a very abstract thing, but the health of our ecosystem is reflected in the storm water that's coming off of all of our homes. All that in the summertime, overflooding the sewers, etc., going into Lake Erie, polluting the fish and the drinking water. Our drinking water cycles right back to us through the tap. It's all interconnected. So I think that the prayers that we make, the actions that we take, are then reflected at home as well as in the community. So to me, it is interconnected. It's interesting, too, as a side, the amount of evangelical, for example, churches that are now awakening to the importance, the call for stewardship of creation. And we used to say, hug a tree, but you are kind of a fringe thing. But everyone is seeing that they benefit, their children benefit, and now with the boomers aging, etc., you want to have someplace nice to be. And that I think they're seeing a deeper meaning for how they can practice their faith, and it's a beautiful thing, it really is.
Knowing that a lot has evolved, what for you right now would you say is most challenging about the work you do?
Well, being in any nonprofit these days has been really difficult. Typically with funds, et cetera, and the foundations are struggling, and more people or organizations are asking for support. For us, also being available, because more people, as we're saying, are interested in being green and sustainability than ever before. In a way, they say you're going to reap the harvest. You're going to reap what you sow. And I think that the harvest is so great as far as information and activity that people want to take. It's a challenge for us to be available and to interconnect. So the balance between minding our own store, so to speak, and the reinvestments we need as an organization, and investing in the collaboration and with other organizations and the schools and farm to schools and initiative we're looking to take, et cetera. That's the challenge. Yeah. Not to mention your own family life.
Yeah.
Let me shamelessly promote Heart to Heart a little bit. Now, I know that you're a part of a leadership group. You meet with other leaders once a month, and it's facilitated by my buddy here, Father Norm. Why get into something like that? What's in it for you?
For me and for anybody, I would strongly encourage folks, if you have the opportunity, or will take the opportunity, the time. It's been wonderful. One of the key things that was sort of an awakening for me, an aha for me, was, again, the resilience and the notion that how I care for myself, taking time for myself, is then making more energy available, not just for my work life, but also for my family life, and to have that balance. In my time, also as a new executive, it's my first time in the seat, the chance to share with other people, other executives, folks that are in decision-making positions in their organizations, and to hear their stories, that's also been very, very rewarding for me. But the focus on spirituality and to put business practices, for example, in the context of spirituality is something I think is very far-sighted. I think it's something that it will be in many ways timeless, because it's something people need to recharge, but also to lead. And so it gives you stronger commitment to your own personal life, and to have that balance with work, but also enable the other folks that you supervise, other people at your workplaces, to find that solstice for themselves, so that as a whole, when you're at work, you're all functioning at the highest level possible. I can't say enough about Heart to Heart. I really enjoyed it.
Well, hey, we thank you for the plug. Yes. Hey, wanted to ask you too, if somebody is just becoming a leader, they're 30 years old and they're going to lead an organization for the first time, what nuggets of wisdom would you offer them?
Get some sleep.
Yes.
Nuggets of wisdom. Well, I'm entering my third year, so I would hardly consider myself to be a fount of wisdom. But some of the things that I've done that I found have been very helpful. I've reached out to long-standing members that are part of Crown Point. I undertook an overall survey, so a strategic plan. We worked with the Center for Nonprofit Excellence for that. Help kind of get a bird's eye view. Those investments are really important early on. Also to spend the time, be available for your staff for those one-on-one meetings. That's something that's a continual challenge for me. The schedule's very, very dense. But when we do spend that time, that reconnecting, it's very powerful. And it's important. We talk. That's one of the things I take from heart to heart is taking the time, spending the time. It's important.
Yeah.
You've convinced me to be more environmentally aware. I see that as helping me develop and contributing to the world. How do I start? Where do I go?
Well,
what do I do?
350.org is an organization that was founded looking to bring the carbon dioxide parts per million in the environment down to 350 parts per million. But 350.org has a list of very practical steps that you can take. We talked about it. Not drinking bottled water, for example, walking more, shopping at farmers markets, that kind of stuff. Simple things. Looking to, for example, the carbon footprint, how to reduce that. But if you're looking for very simple things, 350.org is where I would suggest. And you can find them through our website, crownpt.org.
Well, good. And through your website, too, we can get your address and how to get there, and that's good. Yep. Hey, thank you so much, Chris,
for your
inviting me, sharing with us and the passion with which you do it. And this concludes this segment. Larry and I will be back in a moment just to share a couple closing reflections. Welcome back to our closing segment as Larry and I reflect a little on what Chris shared with us. Larry, I got to tell you, he had such an energy, and it kind of struck me, that whole reality of the energy of the planet, the energy of one another. You can see he has a great passion for his work. It's his that thread that goes through his life, and I think, wouldn't it be great if everybody, even the people that are listening, would get in touch with what energizes them, what they can give themselves over to. And I see it as a real connection with the energy in the very globe that we inhabit.
And more, Norm, as you know, the discussion out in the business and professional world goes beyond time management to energy management. How are we expending our energies? And just being around somebody like Chris, obviously, gives you an energy rush, too. And I think connecting to the energy of the planet energizes you. So if you're not connected to the energy of the planet, maybe we all need to connect to somebody who is, like Chris, and I think it'll really energize us and move us beyond complacency to a greater sense of adventure. And maybe we really need more and more adventure in our life to bring us to life.
Yeah. Thanks. And as we wrap up here, certainly it's a reminder, I think, for all of us out there that we are way more interdependent and interconnected than we realize. And when we make those connections, we energize one another for the good of the human family, of the planet, and even in some way of the universe. Hope to have all of you come back and join us when we have our next segment of Spirit at Work.